Exhausted, the public land hunters decide to sleep in on the morning of November 19th. By midday, Zach Ferenbaugh is refreshed and ready for the mile-and-a-half trek back to the timber nest.
It's the evening of November 19th, and Corey and I are back at the timber nest on the Pine Ridge unit. Basically, we're still right on that same bedding area that we've been hunting, and we're actually in the tree that John and Aaron had the first encounter with a mature buck, well, a couple mature bucks. Basically, what happens in this spot is these deer funnel out of these ditches and this bedding area that's on top of this ridge. They pinch down on this transition line, headed out to the crop fields. When Sean and I were in here for that first all-day sit, we watched a nice 8-pointer and a couple of nice 3-year-olds come right through this transition line. If we'd have been in this stand that day, we'd have definitely got a shot at that 8-pointer. And that 10-pointer actually was only about 50 yards from this spot as well. So we know there's several good bucks in here. I think we're in a good spot. This northwest wind is blowing it right over this nasty ditch. Hopefully they come up out of here, going to food. The wind's gonna die down to about 8 miles an hour right towards dark. It's probably about 15 to 20 now, and it's been about 35 since yesterday morning. So hopefully the deer are doing the same thing that they've been doing. Hopefully we haven't pressured them too much being back here. It's a shooter. It's the one I missed. It's right over here. He's coming right along the edge here. See him? Hey. Listen. Looked pretty good, didn't it? Cool, man. It's only 4 o'clock. It's 4:09. That's the one I missed a couple days ago. I didn't miss him that time. Shot looked pretty good. It didn't bury super deep in there, but it buried deep enough, and it sounded like it hit the. Sounded like it smashed that diaphragm pretty good. Did exactly like we wanted him to today. Man, I'm pumped. Looks like lungs. Well, we're looking at the blood here, and Corey and I are pretty convinced that the shot's just like we think, double lung. It's getting dark anyway. We're probably just gonna wait for Sean and Aaron. They're a big part of this. We're, always working together, and one of the things that we're noticing now when we're down here on the ground, there's a bunch of rubs leading out to this crop field on the transition line of this bedding area. And that's one of the things we do a lot of scouting for in the summer, is we're looking for rub lines that are on transition lines, specifically around bedding areas. This tells us that there's either a buck bedding in here or there's a lot of bucks checking this bedding area on their way out to food. That deer got up so early, it makes me think that he was for sure bedded in that bed that Aaron and I found back in July. I think the date was July 6th. It just goes to show that all that scouting can pay off. There's definitely been deer bedding in this bedding area, and there's definitely been a lot of bucks coming up through here. And today, the one that I missed was the one that came back through. So I'm gonna go back to the car, drop some things off, and you'll see us back here with Sean and Aaron here in a few minutes.
All right, that's it.
Frigid Forage Plowdown Clover is one of the most revolutionary products they sell. You ideally frost seed this blend of fast-growing clovers during the winter and then mow it down and till it under when preparing to plant Big and Beastie the next summer. The clover provides much-needed forage for the deer during the summer and much-needed nitrogen for the Big and Beastie once you plow it down.
Quick, sometimes awkward tree stand shots can test your ability to hit a consistent anchor point. Hoyt bows feature cams with draw stops and smooth draw cycles so you can hit your anchor point quickly, precisely, and with the least amount of movement possible. Realtree is best known for their effective camo patterns, but they also sell accessories that improve hunting. One of these is their Easy Arm Guard. When bow hunting, it is important to keep the fabric of your jacket from interfering with the string. The Easy Arm Guard keeps the string path clear for accurate shooting.
I have learned over the years that you never regret buying high-quality products. Sure, you can build a blind for a reasonable cost, and that might get you by for a while, but for a truly long-term solution, nothing beats a well-made fiberglass blind like the Redneck Buck Palace.
Right here's some pretty good looking blood. Yeah.
Oh yeah, flop.
Right there, some claw. Right there. You can see where he's stumbling here.
That's good. Hopefully he goes up there and dies.
Well, we're about 200 yards down the hill. He's went a little bit further than what we thought. He crossed one of these ditches. We're following his trail. It's looking like one lung and liver. The blood's kind of thinning out, but it definitely hit one of the lungs. There's bubbles in it. And there was, right on impact, it looked like there was dark blood too, like liver. He was bleeding really good at the beginning, and he's kind of dying off here, but we got a line of travel. We're just going to follow it here and see if he opens back up, or we can hopefully find him dead up here. Right there he is. Do you see him right there?
Oh, there he is.
Oh yeah. That's definitely the buck that I missed the other day. How about that? He went a lot further than we thought. When we first hit him and we watched the shot back, we thought for sure that it was a double lung. And when we started tracking him there, the blood wasn't necessarily as good as we'd hoped. We actually found a couple of beds up there, and that pretty much told us that it wasn't a double lung hit, because he was moving from those beds, but he was bedding probably 2 or 3 times within 40 yards. You don't get too many chances where you shoot at the same buck in the same season, let alone within the same week.
Yeah. Big old square head on him.
Yeah, I think
basically
he's
the same spot too, you know, it wasn't...
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
just
It's not
across
like
the
you
ridge.
went out in a totally different area and got a
Right.
shot at him again.
Well, and I thought, you know, we talked about it before, which is like, man, he's probably gone.
Yeah,
Right,
he
I
wasn't
think
gone.
he's bedded in that bed.
Yeah,
I really do.
I think so. Kind of cool.
Bedded it. I mean, got up at 4 o'clock and just walked right out to that field. He was definitely going out there to check
That's what I was
those does.
telling the boys earlier, is that the hunt itself didn't kill the deer. It was that scouting mission that
For
killed
sure.
him.
For sure. Oh
That's
yeah.
That's what did it.
Yep. Yeah, we knew.
You
Hey,
right where
you're
they're gonna be.
Yeah, dude. Congrats.
Thanks, man.
Sweet.
Well, after a long night of dragging this buck out, we came back out here this morning and just wanted to talk a little bit more about the strategy that went into killing this buck. Basically, the whole reason we had success in that area is due to our scouting over the summer. As we've talked about quite a bit, Aaron and I did a bunch of scouting looking for buck bedding areas. Preston, Aaron, and I went into that spot on July 6th and had a pretty good idea that deer would be bedding in that thicket that's on top of that ridge. We walked the transition line, and sure enough, we found plenty of beds in that thicket. And one bed in particular stuck out to us that we thought was going to be a buck bed. We have plenty of places to hunt on public. We scout all summer long, so we didn't make it to that spot until mid-November when John and Aaron went in to one of our other spots and realized that there was a bunch of pressure in that area. They actually ran into a guy that was hunting in that area, and they decided to pull the stand and move over to where we had scouted in the summer. When they got back there, there was a bunch of deer coming out of that bedding area, so we decided to keep hunting it until we felt like we were putting too much pressure on, or we just stopped seeing deer movement. The 2 days prior to this buck, saw a lot of good mature buck activity in that area, and then even got a crack at this buck a couple days before. I ended up killing him yesterday. But I think the biggest thing in harvesting this buck was the scouting. We put a bunch of time in as a team on public land, scouting, looking for bedding areas, and this year specifically buck bedding areas, and it's definitely paid off. Sure seems like he got out of that bed last night and came right along that transition line like we planned. And the other thing that comes into play is finding a lot of does. There was a ton of does bedded back there, and we suspect it was because there was a lot of pressure in the surrounding areas on that piece of public land. And it seems like it really pushed all those deer back into that little pocket where we were hunting. But all the hard work's paid off, and I couldn't be happier to put my tag around a great public land buck. Once we found the buck, we had our work cut out for us. The buck had died deep on public land across some deep ditches and thick cover. In order to get him out of the woods as fast as we could, we used the Cabela's Deluxe game cart. Even through the rugged terrain, it held up to the test to get this buck out of the woods. This past season, I was using the Easton Full Metal Jacket 5mm arrow. I prefer to use a heavier arrow, which is great for shooting tight groups and also packs a heavy punch when shooting at live game.
Each time you see us hanging stands on public land, we'll be utilizing the muddy lineman's rope. We attach at the base of the tree, it stays with us all the way up as we're climbing, and then allows us to be hands-free while we're working with the tree stand. Pair that with the Muddy Safeguard harness, and you've got the perfect system for the hang and hunt whitetail hunter.
Trophy rocks are the #1 attractant because deer love them. It is that simple. Many deer hunters use the rocks to draw deer to their trail cameras in the off-season, while at the same time creating a healthier herd. It is the firearm season in Wisconsin, one of our great deer hunting traditions in which more than 500,000 hunters hit the woods. Elliot Smith heads to a soybean plot where he's been getting trail camera photos of a big-bodied 8-pointer.
It's November 20th, the second day of the Wisconsin gun season. We snuck back into the foundation field again tonight. With 4 does in the field, they were at about 70 yards when we crawled in the blind. It's about 30 degrees, that's about the high today. And the winds have calmed down since yesterday. But this is definitely a main feeding area for all these does, and I think it's just a matter of time. We have a definite shooter here, so he's been showing up in this foundation field. So hopefully he shows up tonight, and we got great conditions. This is a deer that we've kind of been watching all year, and when he came out tonight, I couldn't help myself. I knew I was going to shoot him right away. He's a beautiful deer, a beautiful Wisconsin deer. It's the second day. He's the oldest deer I think that we had on the farm. I had pictures of this here, so that is a gorgeous deer. We're gonna get him out of here and enjoy the night. It's a good night here in Wisconsin.
I'm thinking back, and I don't believe I can recall a single time when deer busted me in a ground blind when I was running an ozonics unit. One of the reasons I hunt from blinds is to contain my scent around food plots and in areas where the wind swirls. Nothing makes this more possible than adding an ozonics to the gear list. I take my quiver off when I'm whitetail hunting. By removing the quiver, I make the bow lighter and easier to handle in the stand, but I also reduce the side profile, so if the wind is blowing, it doesn't have as much surface area to push against. Fuse quivers are all quickly detachable, and they have convenient loops on which to hang them in the tree stand. Muddy's ProCam line is made up of very affordable portable cameras that have excellent battery life. Because their total cost to own and operate is low, you can run more of them on the same budget. More cameras means more information, and that eventually leads to an increase in success. There are very few true no-till seeders on the market that focus on the needs of deer managers who are faced with small plots and small tractors. The RTP Genesis fits the bill perfectly with two sizes, a 5-footer and a 7-footer, that both place the seeds at the proper depth without any need for tillage. The Rocket Sidewinder is one of the most versatile broadheads on the market. It features a super sharp steel tip, a moderate 1.5-inch cutting diameter, and it flies like a field point. The public land hunters have plenty of reason to count their blessings. On top of all the other successes, Zach just harvested his best buck to date. Only Sean Ferenbaugh has a tag. No one has hunted the buck nest recently, and that area will now be Sean's focus. The target is a giant 6x5 named Ray. Mike and Jared continue hunting separately to increase their odds. Jared hunts the 19th and the 20th with little action. Mike hunts the urban zone and encounters a mature buck that he has pictures of, but elects to pass the deer with the knowledge that there is a bigger buck in the area.
I'm actually not sure how old he is. He's not the biggest antlered deer. I kind of went back and forth on whether or not I should shoot him. I got pictures of a lot bigger deer than him, and ultimately I decided I wasn't going to shoot him. I passed him right here at 20.
20 days into the month, we have seen a lot. A great peak and a discouraging lull. But the rut also has a second peak, though weaker. For those fortunate enough to be hunting, this second peak is fast approaching. The rut's final gasp often produces unique opportunities as old bucks search for the last hot doe. Gaining their second wind, our teams commit for the stretch run. We are down to the wire now, down to just one last week of chasing November.